Anita Baker is an alchemist. That's right. Anita Baker is such an inspiration. So her story is, when she was 2 years old, her mother abandoned her. So then she went to go live in a foster home in Detroit, right? Because she was born in Toledo and then she moved to Detroit to the foster home. And then I read that when she was 12, her foster parents died. So right away you can just see that what's going on here. So the definition of an alchemist, when we're talking about like the psychological, real life, modern day definition, not specifically literally working with precious metals and stuff, but we're turning that analogy to our own life. The definition of an alchemist is someone who takes whatever life gives them, reshapes it into what propels them for success, for their greatest life, for their greatest achievement. If you think about like people like Oprah, all these people who say like, I was homeless and I was abused as a child and all these types of things. For them to come from that type of environment where there was questions about their love and their care and their worth, it's quite the thing for you to feel like your mother abandoned you as a baby. But I'll share this clip here with something really interesting she says about how tools were given to her. Like the tools she needed in her life were given to her. And she just needed to know how to see the tools and use them.
The tools that I need are given to me from the day that I was born. When my mom couldn't deal with raising a little baby, my parents were given to me. Everything I've ever needed has just been given to me. I just have to have the good sense. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Right? Like how to be like, okay, I recognize that even though I was born in a situation that is unusual, I realize the things that I can still be grateful for. I realize the alternate routes that have been placed in front of me, and I can either use it for my advancement or not. So that's what she did, and she said that in her interview. So I resonate with her story because I grew up in Detroit myself, and I was in a foster home briefly for about a couple years. I believe I went into a foster home when I was 5 years old, maybe. But similar to Anita, I feel like my experience with my foster family was primarily good. There were some like situations that were like, traumatic, but it wasn't the worst that it could have been. Definitely not. When you look at what other kids have gone through, I didn't go through stuff like that. One of my best memories from being in the foster home is when my foster mom threw me the most amazing birthday party I've ever had as a child. And, I had like my school friends were there. They were like, oh, so happy for me. And I just felt like such a popular kid. And I just felt like, I think a clown was there too. I was dressed up and we were in the backyard. That's a core memory for me. And even though at the time I was separated from my mother, and at the time, in my little mind, I probably was wondering about my worth, that experience gave me a new perspective of my worth, of me being worth that investment on my birthday. And that was in the foster home. So I feel like that's similar to what Anita had. I get the feeling that she had a very supportive foster family and that they treated her like their own. Like she has stories about when she went to church and even the people at church were very welcoming of her, encouraging her love for music. They saw that light in her very early on. And it's really amazing how that kind of early experience can really boost your self-esteem and your sense of self-worth. So she was noticing these tools around her. I don't think she was really focused on, whatever happened at 2 years old. Like she was integrating herself into this new narrative of okay, I have a family that's taking me in and I'm going to make the best of it. And the creative expression happened and she realized that it was something that brought her so much joy. And one thing very interesting that she said is how she would have moments. She has moments during her performances and when she's making the music and when she's singing where it becomes an out of body experience. Literally, it's as if she's channeling is what it seems like to me. Like watch this clip and see what she says.
There is a time when everything is right, when the music is right, or even when it's all wrong, but you're just not focusing on anything, that you just totally leave until the song is over. Then you come back and you go, well, for our next selection, and it's like you've been kind of occupied. You've been I don't know, you've just been occupied for a while by another whatever, I don't know. But it's a wonderful thing.
That's pretty powerful. And it's interesting too because it relates to the idea of the jazz brain that we're also talking about here. Because in jazz, there's a lot of improv, there's a lot of spontaneity. And this Dr. Charles Lim has been doing multiple studies about this. And he talks about how he has like people go into an MRI machine and he's monitoring. He has them like play improvisation on a keyboard. They're playing the jazz notes and then they improv and they do like spontaneous note, like unplanned freestyle, like notes on the keyboard. He noticed that there's certain areas of the brain that shut off, and those areas have to do with our inhibitions, like the things that limit our behavior, that tell us to self-correct and to monitor in ourselves, and to it's kind of like what makes us civilized in a way, like in society, like, oh, you shouldn't say this and you shouldn't do that and this and that, and like we're following the rules. It's like it turns that part of our brain off, so then we are tapping into more of the part of our brain that is storytelling, and it's not bound by any of those rules. So it's a free expression. So when she says that she goes somewhere else or something else takes over her, I feel like she's definitely tapping into that part of her brain. And it's healing. It's so healing because it's like you're no longer identifying with this part of yourself that's trying to restrict you and trying to define you and put you into these roles, into this narrative. Like, if you grow up in a strict household, you probably have a lot of that in your brain. I feel like maybe I could have had a lot of that in my brain. And that's why creative expression frees me from that, because I'm not within those constraints anymore, right? Like you're able to redefine yourself. You're able to tap into something that feels even bigger than you. Maybe it is you. Maybe it's just your higher self embodied into your physical body. For her to feel like she's more than her body, like she knows that. And so that's why people would say, oh, wow, you have such a big voice. Her alchemy even started in middle school when the kids would make fun of her in middle school and be like, oh, you have such a deep voice for a girl. But then she said she discovered Sarah Vaughan, and if you know Sarah Vaughan, like, she's such an inspirational singer. Like she made the songs like Fever, Misty, whatever Lola wants, like that's Sarah Vaughan. So she discovered Sarah Vaughan and she was like, wow, like there's another woman whose voice is deep like mine, and look at the incredible music she's making, the heart she's touching, the story she's telling. Like it's powerful to have people that inspire you like that, and those are, again, like alchemists. Like they inspire you because they're like, look at me, I didn't let that stop me. You can't be too associated with these limits of your body. And so once you realize that, once you release that association, then you're tapping into the soul space, the literal soul, jazz, R&B space. So I find that really inspiring about her. And it was only recently that I discovered a lot of this stuff. The other day, as you guys probably know, this whole month I've been doing a lot of shadow work with solfeggio frequency, specifically 174 hertz. I'll attach another video that explains the whole process that's going on right now. But I don't know, it was a thing that popped into my head that day, and I was like, wow, like I really want to listen to some Anita Baker. I really want to sing these songs, and it just put me in such a good mood. Like, plus the sun was shining here in Portland, Oregon, which is just a blessing. But yeah, I let myself embrace that. And then I was like, I actually am curious to know more about her because even though I listened to so much of her music growing up, I never really learned more about her story. So then I looked online, and that's when I learned like more about her, like her upbringing and stuff like that. So now that I'm an adult, it's very cool because I'm able to have this new relationship with her and to understand her in a deeper way. Not only understand the love songs and the emotion she feels for her partner, but just as a woman, especially like, her height was short, like smaller than most women, and I feel like that too. Like I'm like I was 5'3" for a long time. I guess I'm 5'4" now, but still, just like being a small woman in general, or a woman, people see you as weak, or they try to make you feel weak.
You're quite a businesswoman, though, and it's funny. Barbara Streisand said that if you're a businessman, they call you, a genius businessman. If you're a smart businesswoman, they call you a bitch.
Baby, baby.
What do you think? Would that be accurate?
I think she's right.
She has a reputation, I guess, or a lot of people saying that she was rude and difficult to work with and whatever. And I myself like to go off of my experiences that I have directly with people. I've never met Anita Baker. I've never been to a concert of hers. I would love to. So I don't know, like it's for me it's like all things that people have said. And I know there's always two sides of a story though. I realize that it must have not been easy because she's a person who's very invested in her work, in her craft. Many, many artists are like that. But then I think what happens is, when you think about like classic Hollywood, like they go to Hollywood and there's all these ideas that are pushed onto them because you do want to be trendy, and or whatever agenda there might be. And unfortunately, a lot of artists are compromising their values and beliefs. That's when they say like, oh, somebody sold their soul or something. It's like there's a lot of pressure. I'm sure there's a lot of pressure, and I empathize with the whole industry. I empathize for the people that have to push that agenda and they don't even realize how they're making people feel. But she was like, I want to let artists know that you don't have to compromise yourself in this industry. So she was saying no a lot, I'm sure. And she was saying, I don't like this. And no, I don't want to do it that way. And so people started saying she was difficult because she wanted her music and her presentation to be exactly how she wanted it to be. And I really admire her for that, for not giving up on what was important for her, regardless of all the hate and backlash or whatever. So I just think she's a very special person for that. I mean, you can just listen to her music and just tell that she's putting her entire being into it. And maybe it's like she said, like that higher self or that channeling or whatever, that spirit that she feels coming out. Because she says she just kind of like steps aside, like her consciousness steps aside, and then she just lets the music come out on its own. Like she just lets the songs find her. And that's really tapping into a type of magic that is alchemy. Because I don't feel like things are really linear, like it could be her future self inspiring her past self. Like, okay, I know what we're going to do, so I'm going to help you out. I think some of that happens, and as long as we're attentive to it and we're open to it and sensitive and noticing it, then we'll be able to utilize that for our growth and expression of life. So when we think about like how music and jazz heals the brain, it's a lot of improvisation. It's a lot of improv. You're getting out of your own way. And it's fun because it's like you're experimenting. You're like, oh, I wonder what this is going to sound like. But you're doing what you're supposed to. You're tapping into an experiment to just find new ways of making music. So, when we think about jazz and music and sound, that itself is energy because sound is energy. So the science of it is that that energy, that frequency has a physical effect in your ear, inside of your ear. It vibrates your eardrum. And then that vibration is transformed into a liquid. So it becomes like a fluid thing, and then that transfers into something electrical. And that's how we're able to interpret sound. It's just so interesting because our relationship with music is ancient. researchers have said that our earliest music was definitely probably improvisation. And the beautiful thing with that, a lot of these jazz musicians, is that they get together in groups and they communicate through their music. They communicate with improv. Like nobody knows really what they're going to do, but they're all getting together and they're experimenting and going back and forth, playing notes, like seeing how the notes are going to weave together inside of this song. And it's really fun. It could go on forever. So that is something that influences like how we are able to be in unison together, to come together as people. And when they say that, music is a universal language, music does access a part of our brain that is related to speech, but not like the semantics of speech. It's like a different layer of language where we are able to communicate and feel the music within our language center of our brain. What I want to end this video with is the alchemy really is in creative expression with freestyle expressions like improv. So, if you're doing like freestyle painting or dancing or jazz or whatever, like you're strengthening the connection between your left and right hemispheres in your brain. And that's something that's going to keep your brain healthy for a very long time in your life. And it's also something that's going to make you happier. The more people that are creatively expressing themselves like that and tapping into that area of releasing their inhibitions and tapping into the part of themselves that's like telling their narrative to the world will help people feel heard. It will help people feel empowered. And that's an alchemy. So it's Anita Baker's birthday today. So happy birthday, Anita Baker. And I created this drawing. I just feel like I embodied her energy and her beauty for sure. So thanks for watching. Definitely like, comment, subscribe, and let's keep the conversation going on how we can use our creative expression to just become our happiest selves in this world. What else is there to do? Thank you guys.